Welcome back, everyone, to the PXP Let's Talk Success podcast. I'm Dre, back with my illustrious co-host, Paul Plummer.
Hello, everybody. Good to see you, Dre.
How you doing today?
Great.
How you feeling? That's the real question, because last podcast we were not there.
Yeah, feeling better. Still feel a little, not under the weather. Feel fine, but still feel the lingering effects of a cold, a little congestion in the chest.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was going to say, for everyone that doesn't know, last podcast I felt like we were struggling. I know I was, especially just being sick, and we still got it done for you guys, but if we sounded terrible, it's not our fault necessarily.
It was definitely our fault.
Yeah.
Those little critters got in our bodies and made us feel certain ways.
Right, but I'm glad we got it done for them. I honestly didn't even listen to it because I just felt like we sounded so bad. I was like, I don't want to be disgusted with myself. So.
Well, I think while we're here talking about that piece, I think there's some good lessons to come out of that, right? I mean, when you're not feeling under the weather, sometimes backing off from workouts is a good thing. Mm-hmm. Sometimes giving yourself grace to know that you're not doing the same activity levels. You're not going to be able to do those certain things. Your productivity is going to drop, and a lot of people, when they're not as efficient as what they think they should be, no matter what the reason is, they get disappointed or down. And in previous podcasts we've talked about that mental side, and being able to put that together. There's a lot of viruses going around right now, and just being able to anticipate them sometimes, do your best at preventing them as best you can, but when it happens, it's got to run its course.
Yeah, that's for sure, and it ran its course.
And it doesn't always happen when you want it to, right?
No,
maybe it happens the week before a race or something.
Right, yeah, that was a challenge in itself, that's for sure.
But you found that finish line. Well done.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. Let's go to Cricket's joke. I want to bring that back into it.
We'll liven it up now after all that down stuff. We'll bring Cricket back in to kind of get us back on track.
Yeah, so hopefully we sound better this time, and we have new equipment actually. So for those of you that are watching, you can see it. You can see the new equipment that we got finally set up and got in. So I'm excited for that, just because it looks good for the most part. So we're becoming a little bit more professional, hopefully. So hopefully this sounds better than the last one, just because of the equipment as well.
Yeah, and thank you for everybody for going on this journey with us.
Yeah, absolutely. And we always love the feedback and always welcome help for sure. So, but okay, Cricket's joke. So the doc says, make sure the nurses are carrying red pens in case they need to draw blood. That's a rougher one, but that was one she gave me, so I like it. So shout out to Cricket for that. But all right, but so you kind of touched on it a little bit, but today's topic, we're bouncing back from sickness. We're bouncing back from going on business trips, if you will. You going to Colorado for some USA triathlon training or coaching and whatnot, and then myself coming back from Florida, just trying to survive, really. So, how was Colorado?
It was good. Last week I started getting a little scratchy throat and thought it was going to be a little scratchy throat. When I got to Colorado, I had that squeaky voice. This 55-year-old sounded like he was 15 again, going through puberty with a high voice and so forth. And so that was frustrating in itself, just because, you go to some of these clinics and these conferences and you want to put your best foot forward. Mm-hmm. And maybe you can put your best foot forward until you start to talk. And then this little squeaky voice comes out. And so that added some stress and so forth. And, you had an event that, you're going into and having that same sort of thing. And it's just trying to find a way to manage those pieces and set expectations.
Yeah. How was the flight out there?
Very good. Flight going out and back was fine. I got fortunate there, just a quick connection in Denver to Colorado Springs. Ended up at the Paralympic Training Center, doing some advanced training for triathlon coaching.
Yeah. How cool was that, just like being there in itself?
Well, obviously the Olympic Training Center is a pretty cool place to go into.
Yeah.
Most of what I saw was the inside of a classroom for 8 to 12 hours, for 3 or 4 days. And, we did get to walk around. We got into some of the labs, so we got to do some testing. We had some opportunities to go into the 50-meter pool they've got there, into their weight room, the strength and conditioning area, their ex-phys lab. One thing about their ex-phys lab that was really impressive is it's 6,000, 7,000 foot up of elevation. So there's not as much oxygen up there. So they're doing some testing at altitude to see what happens. Well, if their individuals are going to be competing at a higher altitude or even at sea level, they've got a room that they can adjust the pressure.
Yeah, that's right.
And they can do some testing. Let's say they're going to be competing up in the mountains higher. Mm-hmm. Well, they can do some testing with more pressure, less oxygen in the room, so to speak, or actually less pressure, less oxygen in the room, and be able to see what that body's going to do performance-wise and adjust their training accordingly. Same thing if they're going to be training at altitude and then they're going to be performing down at sea level. They can adjust the variables within the room as they're doing whatever testing they're doing. Yeah, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I was going to say that's pretty cool. For those that don't know what ex-phys stands for, what does that stand for?
Exercise physiology. So it's a broad category. Anytime we're doing any testing on the body, we're looking at the physiology of the body, and then obviously we're applying it through exercise.
Gotcha. What? So did you say you saw inside of there? Or
we got to go in. We actually brought a couple of. One was I'm gonna call him a wannabe Olympian. He hasn't been to the Olympics yet, but is training with the hope of qualifying and going in. The other has been there, had some life situations happen, and is working her way back into fitness for that. So we did some testing. They had some fitness needs that they wanted to test and see where they're at, and so we got to use them as our guinea pigs to give them the data they needed in their training, and also to practice and to learn new techniques on some testing.
Okay, cool. So like in that room then, what's in that room? Is it like treadmills or bikes?
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff in there. There's treadmills and bikes and multiple variations of each. If they wanted to test somebody's acceleration or speed, they had a treadmill that was going to go 20 plus mile an hour. Mm-hmm. And so some of these individuals, your typical treadmill is going to stop at about 12 to 15 mile an hour, depending on which one you got. Well, some people are faster than that.
Did you show them how to get to 25?
I did not. I didn't want to show off too much. I didn't want to show off too much.
My throat's itchy right now, so I can't get up there.
I just didn't want to show off out there. Didn't want to do those sort of things. They had other treadmills that they could adjust gradients, inclines, and so forth. And again, your typical treadmill only goes to a certain height, and they were able to take this up as if they were running steeper hills and declines. Usually on declines, you're going to get 2-3% decline. This was able to go a little deeper, so running down hills, running down mountains, that sort of thing they could simulate. And then they had a couple different bikes, and they're just different ergometers that they could coordinate. They could adjust all kinds of variables and do testing and really see what that body could do in different scenarios.
Yeah, you just gave me a flashback of decline and incline because of the driving in Tennessee and Georgia on the way to Florida. And I was like, why do I keep thinking about a 5% decline? And it was because of the hills through there. And it was funny because I train on Zwift, and on Zwift they'll show the percent grade, and I'm like, so this is what it really looks like in person when I get to that 5% or 3% or 2%. I'm like, okay, this is a lot more than I thought, because on virtually, it's just it's whatever. It's like this, and it's it's a road. But when you're driving on it, it's a heck of a lot different.
Yeah, and if you're driving a manual, you got to downshift, or if you're driving automatic, you hear the engine just kind of give a little extra oomph to get up or get down, and hear it whine. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, but no, that's pretty cool. So, what was your favorite part about the trip, I guess, or the experience?
That was pretty cool there, being in the ex-phys lab. We got to like I said, experiment with a lot of different things, drawing blood and looking at lactate and how different variables would go. But I really enjoyed being on the pool deck at the pool.
Okay.
There was another individual who's a 22-year-old swimmer, one of the elite coaches who is training some of these younger individuals to prepare them for the Olympics, so very elite level training going on. Mm-hmm. This individual lives in Colorado Springs. The coach lives there. They're working together. And so part of his demonstration, part of the coach's demonstration was to bring his athlete in and show some stuff in the pool.
Yeah.
And, that's like all of us, we tend to look at ourselves and look at our flaws, right? So, if we're not doing something as good as we think it should be, relative to whatever barometer we are, whether we're using perfection or we're using the person next to us, this 22-year-old was doing the same thing. He's like, yeah, my stroke it does this. It's not here. I need to work on this. I need to work on that. And he gave us a laundry list of about 4 or 5 things to do. So we've got I had a perception going into this before he ever started swimming that we're going to see some flaws in the swim stroke. We're going to see some challenges in the swim stroke. He's going to have some inefficiencies going on. He jumped in the pool and took off, and I'm like, I wish my stroke were that bad. Mm-hmm. I wish my stroke were that bad.
Yeah.
And he's gliding through the water. He's doing things. But again, that's the difference of some of us age groupers who are working toward things, and some of the elite athletes who their distance from perfection, difference from being a very elite level in the world, is pretty small.
Yeah. Well, no, and you just reminded me of what I was thinking about earlier, because I was thinking about the podcast, and I think a lot of times, I think there's a lesson in that, like, we are always looking at the bad, almost, and like we never recognize the good in what we're doing. And I know you said either the last podcast or the previous podcast that we should take a second after our seasons and look at what we've done and what we've accomplished, because we beat ourselves up so much that we tend to forget about the good stuff that happened, even if we had a bad year.
Yeah.
Or and whatnot. And so that actually reminded me of, shout out to Rosie that comes in here. She told me to watch there was a series on Netflix called Cheer, and it was about cheerleading. And I heard of it before, and it was very popular when it came out, but I never was interested in watching cheerleading. So I said I finally bought it, or I finally watched it on Netflix because she said it was really good, and a few of the other girls said it was really good. And so I said, okay, well, I'll learn something in it, because I've just trained myself to learn from everything. And one of the cheer coaches in there, and these are like apparently the top like cheer schools in the country and whatnot, and they win all the time.
Sure.
And one of the coaches said, it was him and his assistant coach, and they were talking, and he was like, I hate how I always see the bad in the routine, because they do their routine and practice over and over again. And so he was like, don't you hate, and he was talking to the assistant coach, he's like, don't you hate that you're just going to point out the bad in it the entire time? And he said that, he's like, yeah, that's all I see is the bad. Even though they're doing, something that other schools and other, I guess, lower level programs, maybe high school or middle school programs, wish that they could do. So I thought that was interesting that you just brought that up, and it reminded me of it again, that like, as humans, I feel like we just always look at the bad for most of it. And I think that's a lesson to, not to remember to look at the good. Like, even for me in this race, like I've been trying to, in this past race I just did this weekend, I've been trying to figure out like what was the purpose of me going, like, because it was pretty bad. I mean, it was my worst 70.3 I've done in terms of time. So I was like, what good was there? And so I PR'd on the swim, actually, which I figured out last night because I was still thinking about it. Aside from Chattanooga, so like, yeah. So Chattanooga's
PRs are a class by themselves,
right? So like, So for everyone that doesn't know, Chattanooga is a downriver swim. So you're going to PR just because you're going to go faster on that swim. But it's not necessarily realistic in quotation marks. So I just looked at it last night, and I was like, oh, I actually PR'd on the swim, which was nice to see, because I don't know if you saw the course but we had to we made an H.
Right.
So
there's a lot of turns.
Right. The sighting for that was the biggest challenge. So that was good in terms of the physical lesson, I guess, that there was. There's other lessons that I found for myself in them, but I just think that as a reminder for everyone, like I said, Paul said it before, but to always reflect and look at the good as opposed to always just looking at the bad and picking on yourself, because I know a lot of people do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's go back to this 22-year-old that's training for the Olympics. He's a 24 wannabe.
Yeah.
Realistic. We were chit-chatting with his coach afterwards when he was gone and so forth, and his they're going to shoot for 24. It's more realistic that 28 is really going to be his Olympics or building into that. So you can see multiple years trying to get to that one goal. But if an individual who's performing at that elite level feels the same things that we do, right? I mean, sees the flaws. I mean, we can give ourselves a little grace about those pieces, and it doesn't do anything for us, right? Looking at all the negative, the only thing it's going to do is pull us down. And I agree with you. It's 100% human nature to be critical of ourselves. A lot of times, if somebody did the exact same thing that we're doing, we would compliment that person and tell them how great they did.
Right.
We do that exact same thing, and our self-talk is not always as positive.
Right.
And so there's some joy that can happen in that. Some joy can get stolen, if you let it. There's some work that gets hindered. Think about when you go out and do a workout. If your shoulders are down, your heads are down, you're not going to get the same effort level out of things. Where if you come in and you're smiling and you're like, "Hey, I got this," and you got that positive outlook on pieces, you tend to have a better workout. You tend to have better performance. And so there's some all kinds of different nuances that go with that conversation.
No, yeah, for sure. Totally agree with that. Okay, cool. So that was your best part. What was the worst part? I meant to ask you this first, but what was your least favorite part? I guess
my brain power. We had like I said, with some very long days. There's some great teaching going on. We knew going into it that we were going to do some presentations, and we're presenting not only to our peers, but we're presenting to the best of the best in the triathlon coaching world that are leading some of these. And so there's a little bit of intimidation going on in that. There was some trickery going on with that, if you will. I mean, they told us going in, here's what your topic's going to be, here's how we want you to do it. And then we got in and really just like real life, I mean, athletes change their mind or new information comes to light.
Yeah.
And so our presentations were basically going to be on what we would do in a certain scenario. Somebody's a certain age, has a certain background, wants to accomplish a certain goal, and we're given some metrics to use of how we would plan out their year in their training. So we had a couple of days notice prior to arriving there at Colorado Springs. Then once we got there, the first day, they shifted some of those metrics. So the athlete changed their mind or gave us new information. And so we had basically 12 hours to get this done. We found out about 3 in the afternoon, and we had to present the next morning at 7. So there was some late nights or a late night for each of those presentations, trying to get everything organized and put together and at a coherent level that we could communicate it and explain it and detailed in our delivery. And then we had to be succinct. We only had 10 minutes to get all that done. So the longer you have to talk about something, the less prepared you really have to be, right?
Yeah.
And so the more when they give us a specific time limit with all this stuff, it just added to some stress. And so although that was my least favorite part, it's probably the part that I benefited the most from.
Mm-hmm. No, I like that because I think like you said, there's always a challenge that you're gonna have to overcome. And so what's funny is that for me, I figured out that I think that was my lesson from this weekend was I told you that going into it, this was probably one of my better training camps, if you will, going into the race, just because I did all of the workouts. and I felt like I hadn't done that well of a training camp since probably my first Ironman, which was my fault, just because, I mean, for Chattanooga this year, I mean, it wasn't necessarily my fault, but we had it's a weather kind of thing. Yeah. For Ohio, I put myself in a bad position because I couldn't run all year. But this time I was ready to go, and then I get hit with the flu, a week beforehand, and then it's like, what? It's like, what am I supposed to do with that? So I think that's a lesson in itself, and I think that shows how good, I mean, not only you are in that sense, overcoming a challenge when you're hit with it. And I think a lot of people can learn from that, because it's not always going to go the way you plan it to go, and how are you going to overcome that, right? And just, I've heard, we've talked in the last couple days and whatnot that, you got compliments from your peers after your presentation, which just shows I don't want to be so complimentary, but it just shows how good you are and how good other people can be when they overcome those challenges. Like you said, what made you uncomfortable made you better. And I feel the same way for me after this weekend, in a sense, just because, well, one, I feel a lot better now physically, but I just learned from it.
Yeah. So there's two places I want to hit on this in your topic. One is, thank you for the compliments. When I got with the presentations, going into them, with all that preparation, I'm thinking about how poorly they are, because I'm looking at myself doing this presentation. I know what I want to do, and I don't have enough time to get it all organized the way I want to have it organized. I don't want to say that I'm a perfectionist when it comes to these things, but I pay attention to a lot of details of people's training, and even though these are made up scenarios, I still want to be able to deliver this space. So I'm looking at it, and I'm seeing all the flaws in it, right? Right. And so, part of what you're talking about is we got done, and we each get to tell each other, "Hey, great job! Hey, great job!" And many times that's just words, right? Right. We're trying to compliment those pieces. But a couple of flattering situations that happened, that when it was done and we're going, a couple of my classmates pulled me aside and said, "Hey, we really think you did a good job. Here's why." And their statement was, "We were fighting not to follow you." Yeah. And it's, that was a very warm fuzzy for me to get that feedback and so forth. So that was awesome. Now, the other part of that I want to talk about is you and your races. Yeah. You were talking about your training and being in a really good situation here. Many times we go into our training, we know exactly what you're going to have on race day. Yeah. We know what your paces are going to be. We know where you should be, how you're going to transition, what your power is, where your heart rate should be, because we've done that in training. And then when it doesn't happen on race day for whatever reason, some of those reasons you can control, right? Yeah. Sometimes you go in and you just go too hard too early, and then you mess everything up. Sometimes you miss nutrition, it's going to mess that up. And sometimes you get sick, and that's something you can't control. And so when we know what your paces are, when we know what your level of fitness is going in, that's great. Yeah. But we still want to go show off, right? We want that race day performance to be exactly what our metrics are. Sometimes we think that we can go in and outperform our training. That's not going to happen. Most of the time that we can just get lucky enough to actually achieve or show that off of what we can do in our training. Sometimes like what just happened, you get a virus that affects you, you get an energy level that affects it, or something else. It doesn't take away from your fitness. It doesn't take away from who you are, your fitness level, and all the work that you've done. We just don't get to show those pieces off in that moment. Right.
Yeah, and you never know who you're going to inspire either. Like for you, just thinking about the other people that were in there with you, I'm sure they learned something from your presentation just because of what you said. And for me, so after the race, I didn't like this part, but we had to stand in line to get back into transition, and because they were only letting 30 to 40 people in at a time. But so this older gentleman came up behind me, and he was like, "I was trying to keep up with you," and I was on the run, and I'm like, you were trying to keep up with me? Because if anyone knows how I did on the run, it was not a flattering
It wasn't
pace.
your best run.
Yeah. And he was like, you must have taken off or something. And this guy was a 70-year-old.
Yeah.
And he was trying to win his age group. And he was like, I was trying to keep up with you, but you must have taken off. And then him and I started chatting back and forth, waiting to go back into transition. And I just thought it was super funny. I was like, I don't know if I'm the right person that you're thinking of. But he's like, yeah, I remember, because the big PXP logo on our tri-suits. And I was like, well, at least I helped the 70-year-old.
You inspired some people. That's great.
And so I was like, so I was thinking about Jay. I was like, Jay might have talked to this dude before, just because they're close in the age group rankings and whatnot. So,
well, Jay would be already waiting for him in transition.
Right. Yes, he would have. Yes, he would have been. So I thought that was pretty funny, but it's always cool to see that too.
Yep.
Just especially. It wasn't necessarily an affirmation for me, but for you, you said it was, so that was good. But it made me laugh, so that was good.
Well, and like one of the things that makes me feel uncomfortable, like I'm not the most comfortable of accepting compliments, right?
You're right. Yeah.
It makes me feel a little squidgy. The real reason that I don't like accepting compliments or that makes me feel uncomfortable is I don't want anybody to ever think that I'm cocky or arrogant.
Right.
I've been fortunate to have a lot of great experiences, to have done several things, to be acknowledged in several different ways, and sometimes when I think of those or I say them, it feels squidgy. It feels uncomfortable to be talk about this, because I don't want people to think that I'm better than, or that I'm in those spaces. I'm confident. I know what I'm doing. I've got a very good sense of those pieces. But sometimes when people talk about the different awards that I've achieved, or different environments that I've been in, or different things I've been able to experience, it almost feels like they're going to misinterpret that as a cocky arrogance, and I never want that to happen.
No, for sure, and I don't think it comes off to anybody really. But yeah, no. So that's all I had for that little part. But I thought those were good, and I like that. Mm-hmm. But so you want to go over long and short course. So I don't know what you want to go.
Yeah, so that was part of the training out there was a level 2 certification within USA Triathlon.
Yeah.
And so the coaching certifications, you got level 1, level 2, level 3, and then within each of those you got different specializations that you get into. Sometimes it's Paralympic, it's youth, you've got short course, you've got long course, and each of those have different nuances within level 1, level 2, and then obviously level 3. And then even within the long and short course, you've got age groupers, and then you've got elite level, and you've got all these different levels of things. And so that's the training that I went through this past week was for level 2 short course and long course. And it was, like I said, a lot of good information being shared, a lot of interactions, not necessarily learning new information, but it was presented in maybe different ways. But the best part was trying to figure out how to apply information from a different lens, or additional lenses. Whether you've got somebody that's trying to win their age group, or trying to win the race,
right,
or simply just trying to finish an event.
Right. Yeah, and we have that here in the notes as well. Like, what do you, I guess, want to go over with that? Like, do you want to go over the different approaches?
Well, I think right now, the bigger thing is for our listeners. We're at the end of the year.
Yeah.
A lot of people are, doing what we were just talking about, looking back, and hopefully I want to bias them that they can find something positive, or many positive things that they did over that period of time. And then the negative things that do come up, right? The goals that they didn't achieve. Yeah. Don't let them weigh you down, but just acknowledge them. Hey, I wanted to do X, but I didn't accomplish that. I wanted to hit a certain time goal. I wanted to hit a certain pace goal. I wanted to do a certain number of races. That list of things that you didn't do, I think should lend or lead you into what your upcoming goals are.
Yeah.
Right?
And
so here at Pigskin Endurance, it's your goals, your success. We're very goal-oriented. What do you want to do? Mm-hmm. And so at the end of the year here, a lot of people are looking at what they did this past year, starting to plan what they want to accomplish this next year. Let's talk about those things. Let's, for our listeners, if there's things that we can help you with in terms of getting those goals accomplished, getting some assistance with you, maybe it's some education that's coming up for you. Let us know what those things are.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I think it should, add more fuel to the fire, in my perspective, or as well, just because, for me, I haven't. I still haven't accomplished my long course goal, or necessarily my short course goal either, but that's fine in my opinion. So yeah, I think you should continue to have that burning desire for that. And for me, it grows because I didn't hit it again this year, so it grows. And so I hope people can find motivation in that. And I think, just going into it, other people around here help you with that, just because, we've talked about this before with the accountability, with the encouragement. The group is very well at holding you accountable.
And a lot of people don't like to fail, right?
Right.
Or to acknowledge what they perceive as a failure.
Right, yeah.
Right. But what have we heard in class, right? We're in class and we're trying to achieve failure. Mm-hmm. We're trying to accomplish failure.
Yeah.
When you think about a test, you go back to a test that you took whatever number of years ago or whatever number of days ago, depending on how old you are in the class you're taking. If you aced a test, you're going to have a difficult time telling me what a specific question off that test was.
Yeah.
If you missed 1 or 2 or 3 questions off a test, you're going to be able to tell me exactly what the question was, where it was on the page, and what the answer is, because you truly learned it. So we fail in our practices, we fail in our events. There's a lot of life lessons that can be learned. There's a lot of learning that can happen there for your next event, for your next practice, for your next piece. Those are things that I would like to help people focus on, right? What can we learn from your, quote, failure? What can we learn from your accomplishment? What can we learn? Where do you want to go? How can we best help you with those things?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so, which we can go into, fitness goals, which we've been talking about a little bit now. I don't know if you want to go over upcoming goals for people or...
Well, I think let's go through the process. Here, what would I want to see somebody do over the next couple of weeks with their goals, right? And so we've talked a bit about reviewing it. And, if you're just sitting there and it's in your head, I tell you, get out a piece of paper. Jot them down. What did you truly accomplish? What was all the good that you accomplished? What are the things that you didn't accomplish? What do you wish you had accomplished, or what are the things... And then you've got 2 columns, whether those are a specific race performance that you didn't get it, or a specific thing within the performance that you didn't do well. You PR'd in a swim, but then you didn't have a great run, right? So, being able to have that list of, hey, I want to continue my good swim, but I want to make my run stronger. I want to, whatever that list is. Once you've got that list, then we need to start planning what's going to happen next. What are your goals? How are we going to accomplish that? And start looking at different events that would fit into that, different races perhaps, different types of races, different distance of races. Where should they be scheduled out throughout the year?
Yeah.
Even within that, in your training, do we need to do some testing?
Yeah.
Do we actually need to know what your blood lactate levels are, or we can do some field testing? Whatever we've done this past year, did it work? Do we need to make adjustments? What kind of adjustments do we need to make? Our current coached athletes are all, over the next couple of weeks, going to be having conversations with me about season review, what's upcoming. If we've got new individuals who want to be part of PXP Endurance and go through this process to get it started, well, there's a whole process of onboarding and getting all that done that we really need to start talking over the next several weeks to get that process going and uploaded. So a lot of our listeners, a lot of times we sit and we're like, well, I'm going to do this in January. I'm going to start this in February. My conversation with me, I would prefer, hey, let's talk now. You might not get started until February, but it's going to take a period of time to kind of get your schedule organized, get some data collected for you so we can get those things built the way they need to be built.
No, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's just so important. I think just because I'm about to do that, right? Like,
Yeah.
I've already.
Yes, you are. We're going to give you about another 10 days to let everything settle, and then we'll get after it.
So, yeah, and so my wheels have already been spinning about, or turning about what I want to do next year and all that fun stuff, and what I think that I need to do and all that. And I just think it's important because, like you said, we should always look back and assess what happened, what worked, what didn't work. And I told the head coach of the cross country team that I helped coach, I told her that we should. I feel like at the end of the year we should do this. We should see what worked, what didn't work, just to tweak things for next year or for future goals for different athletes and whatnot. So yeah.
And it's Einstein had a great quote. I think it was Einstein. What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, and you're going to get the same results.
Yep.
Or expecting different results.
Yep.
And so, if the things that worked well, we definitely want to reproduce those.
Yeah.
Things that didn't go as well, let's figure out why that was. Maybe we got a virus and it didn't go well.
Right.
Maybe we had something else going on and it didn't go well. And whatever that is, we'll try to eliminate it or change it or modify it. And then we move forward.
No, yeah. And that just helps for what could be a better year, hopefully. So, we'll see for that. But, like you said, just continue to learn. I think that's important, is that you should continue to learn in every event that you do, every race that you have. Because for me, that's why I did so many races last year. I don't know if people, I didn't really tell that to people, but every race I just wanted to learn, because last year was my first year. So, I learned about coming out of the swim. Well, I know this is going to sound obvious, but coming out of the swim wet and then putting on socks after that, should I wait? And then, now I don't ride with socks on the bike, which helps me out. So I think you should always learn in all of your events and then look back, like you said, and do that just to make so then this year, I had a better year in terms of short courses than I did last year. So
and there's some people like you can ride without socks.
Right.
There's some people who can't.
Right.
They have some tender feet that's never going to happen for them. And so, that learning for them is going to be different from you, but you've each got to learn what works best for you.
Yeah.
Love what you've done.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, I like that. So your next thing that we have written down, I can't read, so I'm going to hit it to you. So it's that one right there. I don't know what that says. It looks like Zoe.
No, we're really just talking about once people get the plan, and we're going to look at the scheduling of events and where we want to go. Well, there's a whole system in place, right? We want to do some testing, see where you're at, see where your thresholds are. Then we got to put that into the programming. What does the programming look like? Are we going to be doing Swift for your bike? Are we going to be doing some group classes in here? We're going to add strength training. What kind of strength training we're going to add to it? As we start looking at your builds and your blocks, do we need to use a 3-week block because you need more recovery or quicker recovery? Do we need to look at 4, 5, or 6 week blocks depending on where we're at and the intensities we're going to be using? All kinds of things that we want to talk about. But those will be the details that once an individual has gotten started, we've got a plan. Those are the details that we want to bring in to have those conversations.
Go ahead.
And the bigger piece of that, those details, we don't need our listeners necessarily knowing exactly what I'm talking about in terms of having an idea of, hey, I want to do my programming like this. That's just the system that we put in place, right? That's my job as a coach, to be able to help that individual with the appropriate programming to get them from point A to point B. And doing that at an intensity that doesn't get them hurt, or at least mitigates or reduces the risk of them getting hurt.
Yeah. And that's what I was about to talk about, is how it's individualized from you, right? It's you and me, and then it's you and the next person and the next person, which I think you do a great job at. And this is what I've also been going over the last few days as I've come back from this weekend. It's I think you've done a great job of empowering people here to know what to do now.
Mm-hmm.
So like, because I've been talking with people, and so I've done. I've already gotten on the bike right when I got back since I've been back.
So you've really not followed coach's directions, have you?
Well, not necessarily, right? So like, and I'm supposed to be in a rest week, but like on Tuesday, I was like, man, I just feel like I need to move.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I need to move, and I understand I'm supposed to be resting. But I was like, I just want to move, and I want it to be low impact. So obviously, I'm not going to run.
And so you've made a individual decision based on rest. That is either characterized as absolute rest, you're doing nothing, or that your body needs some relative rest and just much lower intensity, much lower volume, much lower duration. Right,
exactly. Yeah. And so that's just where like I think you've done a great job at individualizing that. And just giving your athletes the knowledge on that, which is very helpful, because so I got on the bike on Tuesday and I just did a spin out, right? I wasn't going 20 plus miles per hour, and
you weren't showing off a high heart rate, you weren't showing off a lot of power, you're just getting those legs moving, right?
Right, exactly. I was just spinning. I was listening to music the whole time. I was just enjoying the ride, enjoying moving my body, which I felt like I needed. And so that's where I was telling people, like I can do that because I know that I can do that now because of Paul. And so like I understand I just came off of a half Ironman, but I also realized that, I didn't go at the intensity that I wanted to because of sickness, because of game planning, still trying to follow my game plan as it was. And so when I got off the bike for this recovery ride, as I'll call it, my legs felt better. Like going into it, I just felt tight. And I just felt, I don't know, I don't want to say I felt lazy. I didn't necessarily feel lazy. I just felt like my body needed to move, like I said, and I felt better afterwards. And so,
well, and you're absolutely right. The people have asked me what my coaching philosophy is on this, right? I mean, I cannot feel your body,
right?
I can't feel what you're feeling. I have some theories of what it might feel like, and then we develop a relationship of trust where, hey, here's what we're trying to accomplish. Here's the theme of what we want to do. We don't want to tax the legs. We don't want to do these pieces, but you've got to read your body and come with it. For these next 2 weeks, I think I wrote something on your training plans of like low intensity, keep heart rate down, work on flexibility, mobility, those sorts of things, and that gives you some freedom then to make some decisions inside that area to do what is best for your body, because you do know what's best for your body. You just need some guidance of how to get the fitness there and keep the injury risk low.
Yeah, for sure. And just going off of that, like another thing, which I don't know if this is necessarily a good thing or a bad thing, but it's going to turn into a good thing, I think, is that like, so after the race, for some reason, I just wanted fruit. And so, so I don't eat a ton of fruit necessarily, but I was like, I feel like I should start to incorporate fruit more into my diet.
Attaboy. Whatever it takes.
Right. So I was like, this is another good part of the race, is that like, so I literally after the race, I was driving back to my hotel, but on the way there, I went and picked up like 3 bowls of fruit and like and some.
Well, that's gonna be my new trend. I'm gonna try to get people eating more fruit. I'm gonna send them down to Florida to do a 70.3. They're gonna have a virus the week before, and they're gonna want to eat more fruit.
Yeah. So I don't know. I was like, that was another good thing about the race, was just that like now I was like, I'm gonna try to eat more fruit during breakfast. And try to put that in there just because like I want to be better about my diet this upcoming year. So I think that's another thing that was sparked of this race, was just like you always out of nowhere, it was just like I just wanted some fruit, and some fruit was like super good afterwards. So that was something that I enjoyed as well from this weekend, and I thought it was good that you can always learn something from the bad, I guess. So good on that. Anything you want to go over from this weekend that you had?
No, just if any of my colleagues from that were out there with me or happen to be listening to this, hey guys, great experience with you. Thank you for all the information you shared. all the feedback that you gave me, and then really helping elevate my coaching game and those sort of things. It's been a really good experience. It was a long 4 days, a lot of work going in there, a lot of stress going in there, but you all made a positive. Thank you.
Well, good. Yeah. Shout out to them. Okay, cool. Well, so I want to, we'll do questions. I do have questions for you that I'm gonna have to grab from my phone real quick. I have a lot of questions from the same person. So I'm going to try to read these to you so we can get into our Coach's Corner segment. So with regard to the mental aspects of recovery from our previous podcast, most of the conversation focused on postseason recovery, I guess. Mm-hmm. What about, she asked, what about during the season? Yeah. She said, Paul spoke about the need to reset at the end of the season to recover the mind. What if we need a reset during the season? So,
yeah, and so it depends on what your season is, whether we're talking about a 3-month training block, whether we're talking about high school cross country, mm-hmm. and you've gone through camp and then school stress going on, and then we're in the middle of cross country season, need a reset. There's probably some things going into that the training volume, the training intensity, some of the joy of training was removed. And so, yeah, if you need a reset during that part of the training, absolutely take it. Mm-hmm. It's going to be really hard during the season because you're going to miss a block of training, in essence. Mm-hmm. So it just becomes harder inside that short distance.
Gotcha.
When we're doing training blocks, and whether it's the high school cross country or whether it's something I'm putting together for some of our adults looking for different events, mm-hmm. There should be some sort of adaptation phase that's happening in this, right? So you've had a build week, maybe a third build week, and then there's an adaptation phase. Some people call this a relative rest week, or a down week, or a recovery week. But what you're really doing is getting your body to adapt to all that training that you've had accomplished in that space. And then you build again and again and again, and you kind of repeat those sort of cycles within your training. And so there should be some rest built in. Sometimes, depending on what you're doing, it's a couple of rest days. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's a lower volume week. Sometimes it's a lower intensity week. There's a lot of ways to manipulate that piece, but there should be some routine, relative rest happening throughout your season.
Is there, this is just a question off that, is there anything in particular that you might do during the season if you need like a reset or a rest day kind of?
Me as an individual or me as a coach?
You as an individual, training wise.
Yeah, so usually I take a day, maybe 2.
Okay.
And so this is the part where, let's talk about me and you for a second, athlete coach. Mm-hmm. If I see my athlete coming in, they're kind of heads down, they're down a little bit, they haven't been getting to sleep, they might be stressed, life stressors happening, or they're just dragging because it's been a high volume week. Usually I'm like, hey, we can skip a workout.
Yeah.
Hey, it's okay to skip that workout. Don't bring it forward. Let it go.
Yeah.
And most people don't want to do that, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, they feel like they skipped a workout or missed a workout. That's bad.
Yeah.
Being able to build that relationship, understand your body, and know that you might need to take that time down.
Yeah.
Because even if I'm prescribing your workout, I can't feel your stuff. We just talked about I can't feel your discomfort and where you're at. I can't tell when you really need some rest. Mm-hmm. But I can try to teach that. I can try to give you permission, right?
Yeah.
As it's happening, hey, it's okay to take a day down. Hey, we can turn this into a relative light day. We can, hey, this doesn't have to be nearly as intense. We can turn this into a recovery ride. If you would feel really bad about not doing anything, well, just make it lighter. And so I think all athletes need to be able to have that opportunity because they do know their bodies best.
Yeah.
And if they are simply following a coach, me, someone else, and doing exactly what the coach is saying as a dictator, dictating to his subordinates that you got to do this, this, and this, that's a recipe for disaster. Mm-hmm. If we can get the athletes to really understand their bodies and go, hey, I understand what we're trying to do, but I need today to catch up. Yeah. I need a cross-training day. I need a lower volume day. I need a lower intensity. I need a lower duration day. Maybe I need to take 2 days off.
Yeah.
That's really important. And
For sure.
I had, just happens to have happened today. We're in some private clients going through, and I'm pushing them pretty hard. I'm using my big boy voice, and I'm pushing, I'm motivating. And if we didn't have that kind of relationship, they would have done exactly what I asked them to do. Instead, what was going on, they were feeling some nicks and some nags going on, and they shared that with me. That was great. I'm complimenting them, telling them how proud I am that they actually said, hey, my body doesn't feel perfect. I think I need to back down the weight, or I need to back down the intensity, or I need to back down the sets or the reps. That was, for me, that was such an affirming time that I know that I've communicated with them. I've given them the opportunity in this environment to feel safe to do those things. That's a big key. Yeah. From a coaching perspective, being able to create that environment where you can give the athlete permission to not do as much if they're not feeling well. Now, it's not a license to wimp out of a workout,
right? Yeah,
yeah. But it's truly knowing or truly feeling what your body feels like.
Yeah.
And if we can get the athletes to actually buy into that, they are important enough that they can say, "Hey, I think I need a day down," and be able to vocalize that to whomever, so they can help protect their bodies. That's a really cool thing.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, I think you answered that great. I think like you said, as a coach, you have one of the biggest pieces you hit on was giving them permission to do so. Yeah. I think that was huge. So
a mistake would be is if I, whatever I listed for you, I try to do my best to give you a good theme of a sequence of workouts. Mm-hmm. But the limiter is I can't feel what you're feeling.
Right.
And so I've got to build that relationship. And I would be doing a disservice to myself as a coach, to you as an athlete, if I didn't try to create that environment where we have that teamwork approach, we have that collaborative effort on your fitness.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And then her next question or questions are what role should sports psychology and sports psychologists play in forming and training our athletes? As a coach, when should we recommend a sports psychologist? As a parent, when should they? So
there's a lot inside there. I don't think there's we're not going to have enough time to truly give a succinct answer to that. Mm-hmm. Obviously, if you've got some emotional stress that you're having trouble solving on your own, seek help.
Yeah.
Whether that's a sports psychologist or counselor or somewhere else. We none of us can do these things alone. Mm-hmm. We all should give ourselves permission to be able to seek help for these things. And it's getting better. I remember a time, and this is going to date me a little bit, but if an athlete started talking about that they were having some emotional stress and they were having trouble handling things, they were put down, they were beat up, they were hazed about not being something enough, tough enough, strong enough, whatever. Thankfully the mental health is becoming a much more, quote, accepted thing. Mm-hmm. It is so important. Your mental health plays such a huge role in your physical performance, your physical health, your just overall well-being.
Yeah.
So I would start with that, with when to seek it if you feel you need it.
Right.
If that athlete feels that they need some assistance, they may not know what assistance they need. Mm-hmm. Seek it.
Right.
If I don't feel well, I don't need to know why I'm not feeling well to go see my doctor. Mm-hmm. If I don't feel well emotionally, I don't need to have the answers to go see a sports psychologist. Mm-hmm. Okay. Another area for this is if I'm not performing well, right? So I got a lot of anxiety prior to the event, or I freeze during the event, or I get so nervous that I just can't perform. Definitely, there's a lot of stuff that sports psychologists can help you with.
Okay.
A lot of tips, tricks, things that they can do. Now, from a coach-parent perspective, so I was talking to the athlete on those.
Yeah.
As an individual, you feel either of those two areas, absolutely reach out to your coach, reach out to a parent, reach out to somebody and say, I need help. Yeah. And it's, hopefully you've got somebody you can do that with it's a safe space that's become way too overused in that. But hopefully you've got somebody you can go to that you can trust and share that you're having some emotional stress or distress and seek help. Parents, if you see a change in your son or daughter in terms of how they're handling things, usually changes are going to be all over the board. It could be any kind of change. They could be joking a lot more, trying to hide the pain that they're feeling. They could be anger, lashing out more than normal because they don't know how to handle what they're doing. They're frustrated. They just don't know where to put that or how to handle it. They don't have the tools. They're not equipped with handling those pieces. Those are some great insights of, we need to get some help.
Yeah.
And, from a coach, you would see a lot of the same things. Those sorts of things playing out within the team, within that environment. What's the performance like? If the performance is staying steady state and they're plateauing, they're not getting better, or if the performance goes down, they can perform so much better, but they're just not. Now, I'm not talking about the expectation that they should perform better. I'm talking about they've done certain things and they've done that, but they're just not meeting those basic standards.
Yeah.
That could be something that's being challenged emotionally. It could be a physical thing. It could be some lab work or blood work, some ferritin, some all kinds of things that could be going on physically, but it also could be an emotional or a psychological piece that they could need some help with.
Yeah, for sure. No, I like that. And like I said, I think you answered the question.
And then just to make sure we cover all the bases, that's not the only things that you could do. That's just the top couple things that come to my mind. There are so many other things that could be covered in this are causing those effects also. Yeah, no,
I think you answered the question in my opinion. So if not, we'll have another question.
She'll re-ask a question.
Yeah, I was going to say, if not, she'll definitely ask again for sure. So I think I know your answer to the last part of her question, but I'm going to ask it just to ask it. Do you think it's like it's reserved for a certain type of athlete, like a top performer or a not top performer?
Aren't we all top performers?
Yeah.
No, I think making those decisions. No, you don't need to be an elite athlete to go seek sports psychology.
Yeah.
You don't need to be performing at a certain level to seek that guidance, that help. Now, if you want to become a top performer, it might help you become one.
Yeah.
If you want to improve your performance, it might help you become that. If you want to have less anxiety, less stress going into things, or whatever your challenge is, it'll help those pieces.
Okay.
But no, I don't think you need to be at a certain performance level, a certain level of an athlete to seek those things. It can help everybody.
Yeah, for sure. No, and that's what I thought you were going to say. So, good. And I like that. And you, I think you answered that well. Cool. So that's it for questions from our listeners. Now we have our fun question segment that we'll go into. I think I just have 5 for you. What's one of your favorite bands?
Favorite band's Motley Crue.
Yep, I knew you were going to say that. As soon as I typed it up, I was like, yeah, he's going to say Motley.
You know where I'm going.
Yeah. Would you consider yourself more of an extrovert or an introvert?
Oh boy, I'm an introvert.
Introvert?
But I play an extrovert every day.
Yeah. What's funny is I say I'm an introvert too, and every time I take a test, I always test as an extrovert. And I even try to test like an introvert, and it's like, nope. But so
I am much more comfortable, being silent, being an observer, being behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But I've grown into being able to be more of an extrovert.
I feel you. All right. Do you believe in ghosts? This is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Why? Have you had a experience with the ghost?
I have what I believe I did. My father passed away when I was 8.
Okay.
And so, maybe this is an 8-year-old brain being wishful thinking or so forth. Mm-hmm. But I have memories of what I think happened after his death, of me seeing glimpses of him or seeing reflections of him or that sort of thing. So I'm going to go with yes, but it might be an 8-year-old brain simply making things up and going those lines.
That's all right. All right. Do you collect anything? Like, I know people collect cards and whatnot. I have all of my like race bibs and whatnot.
Yeah. Not specifically. I think I collect my athletes' PRs. I like sharing those and go through them. And that's probably the most cheesy answer I can give you on there. I do have a lot of most all of my race medals that I've ever done. Mm-hmm. I've got those, but I don't really think of those as collecting. I don't either. I just hoard them. I don't know.
Right. That's what I do too, in my opinion. All right. What's your favorite type of workout or exercise?
My favorite? Mm-hmm. Well, I really like going for long runs.
Oh, really?
Or
I
even
did not expect that.
Or even a long bike. Going out in that easy zone 2 where you can kind of put things on cruise control. I like being in those environments because I can just let my mind wander.
Okay.
I'll be thinking about somebody's training plan, or I'll be thinking about something else, or I'll see a squirrel, or I'll see something shiny on the ground. I can just let my mind go, and I'm just in that zone, just cruising through. Those are some of my favorite workouts.
Gotcha. All right. Well, good. That's it for our fun question segment. Want to go into our shout out segment. You shouted out your peers from this weekend. Anybody else?
I had several clients today that did a fantastic job, and I hope they're listening to this. Kyle and Taylor Moore did some fantastic stuff today in terms of pushing their bodies, getting some depth of burn into what they were doing today. They were able to push into some areas that they hadn't previously pushed into. And then I have a husband and wife client, Peter and Erta Densmore. They were able to push some stuff, especially Erta. I mean, she started out 3 months ago and was able to do like 4 push-ups, and in the last 3 workouts she's done a minimum of 75, has been up over 100 in those, and
nice.
It's been really good watching their growth and their development.
Oh, good. All right. I have a couple. David left a 5-star review for us and had comments on there. I won't comment what he said because everyone should go look, because you should leave a review. But yeah, shout out to David. He left a review, and I can actually see the reviews on Apple now. So that's cool. So we have 7 5-star reviews and then 2 comments. I'm not gonna lie, one of the comments was from me because I wanted to see what would happen. I wanted to see if it worked. I was like, I can't see any of the reviews. I was like, I'm gonna leave one and see what happens. So but shout out to David.
Great.
So there's that. It's my sister's birthday today.
Happy
so I wanted
birthday.
to shout out to her. A lot of people, I tell this to some of my cross country people and whatnot, but a lot of people don't know. My sister was the athlete growing up, and not me. I was not the athlete. She was actually really good at volleyball and track. So shout out to her. I know my dad will listen to this. I don't know if she will. So
well, he can tell her.
Yeah, he can tell her.
Tell her we both said happy birthday.
Okay, I got you. He'll hear it. He'll tell her. So that's it, everyone. So that's episode 7, I think. So like I said, sorry about the last one if it wasn't great, if we didn't sound great or anything. But hopefully there was some good information on that with the triathlon series. That's it for episode 7 on this one. Thank you to everyone who has left a review. Like I said, we have 7 so far that from what I can on Apple, from what I can saw. The rest of them I can't see on Spotify and whatnot. But as always, thank you guys. Still having our sale, our merchandise store over there, still having our sale, so you can still get 35% off of t-shirts, pullovers, and sweatshirts, and then 15% off of the triathlon and cycling clothing. And then we have bingo going on for the month of December. We're halfway through December, and I know I heard yesterday some people are getting close to bingos, and some people have been showed me their boards yesterday since I got back, and they're really close. They're like 1 or 2 workouts away. So I'm like, hey, go run or walk those 8 miles, and you're there. One of them is the podcast squares or whatever it's called. So come in. Don't forget to get your bingo boards filled out, and we'll sign off on those, and we'll have prizes for you guys. I don't think anyone's gotten one yet.
No,
Do you know? Okay, cool. So you're getting close. No one's gotten one yet. Sponsorships again. If anyone wants to sponsor the podcast, feel free to hit up Paul or myself to do that. You can have an ad in here. You can have an ad that we post on our social media page for you, or we can create one for you, verbal ad on here if you want as well. So get with Paul or myself with that. And then like, share, and subscribe to it. As always, you guys can find the podcast on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, Samsung Podcasts, all that fun stuff. Let me know. Let us know in the classes and whatnot if you've listened to it somewhere else, please. Share it with a friend. Share it to Instagram. And for the bingo boards, I think I put on there, I don't know if anybody's read it or not. If you take a picture of yourself doing any of the challenges or whatever, we can put that on. We can share that or on our social media page for you as well, just to highlight you doing or accomplishing something maybe you never thought you would accomplish. Maybe it's swimming or biking or push-ups in here. So that's all I have. Paul, anything to leave the listeners with?
Yeah, just real quick, Christmas is around the corner. Thanks for reminding everybody about the sale. Mm-hmm. There's also a thing on the website that another gift idea. If you have a friend or family member that you want to get them a gift, I mean, you can get them a month of classes. You can get them a PXP membership. There's some testing and stuff in there. All kinds of things for you to look at and some gift ideas there on the website.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, that just reminds me of space on the bingo card is like bringing a friend to class. So you can do that and pay for them to come to class or whatever. And I know I would like for someone to pay for me to do a gait analysis or something. So that's always fun. There are things you can pay for people for that you may not think they need. So hit up the website, that's pxpendurance.com. And like Paul said, gift the gift of PXP. Right. So that's all I have, everyone. So hope you enjoyed this podcast. As always, share your feedback and ask us your questions to the next one. So that's it until next week.
See you, everybody.